Round 1 of the Groundtrax Northern Off-Road Championship would see Richard Copsey top the results in a very muddy season opener, with Brian Farmer a little way back in second, himself a minute ahead of Aston Cox in third place. Round 2 would be a big contrast to Round 1, the crews taking on a rather dusty Driffield. Sadly, our camera's not present due to being on MOD land, but it would be Dan Evans coming out on top, with Simon Adams getting his first podium of the season in second, and a great result for Matt Elvin with third. Round 3 of the championship would see a return of the mud and rain. Parkwood Off-Road Centre near Bradford would be the venue, and this round of the series would be David Simonite's memorial event, a trophy that everyone would want to be taking home at the end of a tough 2 days of racing. On to the first day then, and it would be the early lead for Robin Clarkson. A small lead of just 8 seconds, but it was a good position to be in going into day 2.
Yeah, it's been good, really enjoyed it, yeah. Bit wet and slippy this morning, but, well, this afternoon, but it's good, yeah, really good. Last run, I think, was slippiest a lot. You get a bit more grip when it's raining. It seems to be better grip, but yeah, no, really good, pleased.
For Ian Gregg, it will be second place. The course seemed to be suiting the car well, and the lead wasn't too far out of grasp. With 8 more runs to go on day 2, there would still be plenty of opportunity to try and close that gap. A spin soon after the start wasn't helping the times for Richard Copsey and Richard Canterbury. They were a further 6 seconds back from Gregg and 14 seconds off the lead. It could have been a different story had it not been for those mistakes, but they will be trying to put an end to that and put it right on day 2.
Yeah, it's gone really well. Made a few mistakes. I had a bit of a spin out on the entry to the wood. Had to do like a 360, come back through, but we regained it. We lost a bit of time here and there, but I think we can make it back tomorrow if it dries up a bit more.
Anthony Jackson and Lauren Widdup will be leading the way in Class 6. They were enjoying the course, even if it was proving to be very slippery. The pace was okay, but they felt there was room for improvement on day 2. 4th place though for now.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been very slippy for the first couple of runs, but yeah, we're getting in there. We've had a few little issues, but no major. So just it's very slippy and had a couple of spins, but yeah, it's good. We're enjoying it, so yeah, it's good.
And it will be a mixed opening day for Simon Adams. The times were great, including a joint fastest time, but a series of punctures and a problem with the car going into limp mode were chipping away at that overall time. He makes it to the end of the day ready to get the car sorted and back out for a big push on day 2.
It's been challenging. It's not great without a screen. It's a lot of water out there. I've had 2 punches, and on my 3rd lap I hit the upstand on one of the big jumps a bit hard, and I knocked the fan, bent the housing and stopped the fan, so it went into limp mode. So I've had problems on 3 out of 5 laps, but I think it's going all right, yeah, enjoying it, yeah.
Things were going well for Willie Stubbs meanwhile. 2nd place in Class 6 at this stage and lying in 6th place on our overall leaderboard. A bit of a moment hitting a tree stump on the early stages of the day would be a bit of a reminder that he still had to keep things tidy in order to get to the finish.
All right, apart from that tree stump over there, we hit that. We've learnt to avoid it now, so other than that we're going well. It's a good course, going well.
For Adam Evans, it will be 7th place overall. 3rd place in Class 2, one of 3 UTV vehicles in the top 10, proving that the development of these cars was coming on well now. Things going okay for Cameron Jones, 3rd place in Class 6 at the end of the day, and 8th place overall. Happy enough with how the day had gone, but he knew that he needed to get the pace back up for day 2 if he wanted to climb that leaderboard.
Yeah, I needed to pull my head out my backside a little bit, but yeah, we're all right. Ready for tomorrow. Get hammer down, catch up, catch Mr. Jackson.
Matt and Edmund Elvin put in some good times on day 1 to lead Class 9 overnight. Checks after the day's racing would reveal some play in the prop shaft, so it would be replaced just to be safe ahead of day 2. And rounding out our top 10 would be Ben Gill, second place in Class 9, just behind Elvin, finding the course slippery just like everyone else, but enjoying things so far.
All right, yeah, it's very slippy, but it's same for everybody, I suppose. There's been a few overcooks on corners and what have you, when you think you're going great guns and then it just doesn't happen. But other than that, yeah, we're doing really well. We haven't had any problems or out up to press, so all been well. We should have, if we can have same good luck tomorrow, we've cracked it.
In some of the classes outside the top 10, it will be first place in Class 8 for Luke Sagar. Things were looking well, and the times in the class were good at this stage. For Graham Smith, meanwhile, it will be the Class 4 lead at the end of the day. 12th place overall, just over half a minute back from Sagar at this stage. And Steve Hill and Steve Armand have been enjoying the early summer sunshine leading up to the event, packing the all-terrain tyres into the van, unaware of the rain that was due. The lack of mud terrain tyres would make the course interesting, and the pair end the day with 13th overall, third in Class 9.
It's been very slippy, but it didn't help by we decided to come on ATs rather than the mud tyres. So it's like driving on glass.
James and Jenny Canterbury make a good start to the day with second place in Class 8. The car was going well, they were keeping it the right way up, which is important. Just the spanner check needed ready for day 2. And having no issues on day 1 would be James Lofthouse. It will be an uneventful day, and one that saw no major issues, no drama either, ready for the car to be checked over and back out for a push in the morning. Richard Cooper and Adam Turner certainly weren't having an easy day. They were having a range of problems, including a burst brake pipe at the end of the opening run, and more seriously, a blown rear diff on run 4. You need both of these things, by the way. Thankfully, they do get it fixed, heading out to complete the day with 5th place in Class 9 and 20th on our leaderboard. Tim Martin and Mark Kent would be racing at this venue for the very first time, and they were aware of the reputation for it being so unforgiving. They do have a few moments while learning the course, but end the day with 2nd place in Class 4. It would be a good start to Class 1 for Ashley Short and Russell Newton. A good, healthy lead in that class, lying in 27th overall. 17 seconds back on the overall times would be Craig Snowden, fighting for a different class result and lying 3rd place there at the moment, as well as 28th place overall. Peter Bauer had made a good choice on the tyres. He'd be enjoying the course, particularly with all this mud. 2nd place in Class 1 for him at this stage, just looking to finish with the car in one piece. And for Alan Bland, it will be 3rd place in the class. The gap to 2nd would be a big one though, so it would just be about holding on to 3rd place for now, barring disaster up ahead. There were troubles right from the start for Bradley Hall and Amy Hartley. The throttle cable snapping in the opening run, giving them a maximum. They do get it fixed and continue to the end of the day with 37th overall. There will be more bad luck, however, for Robert Simonite. Sadly, he'd be forced to retire after the opening run of the day. So we reached the end of day 1. It's the lead for Robin Clarkson, but the times were close, with 8 more runs planned for day 2. Coverage of the Groundtrax Northern Off-Road Championship is made possible for you by our championship sponsors. On to day 2 then, and the rain had stopped. But would that make a difference to the times? Let's see. There'd be change at the top now, that was for sure. Robin Clarkson would go into the opening stage with the lead and emerge with 11th place, a maximum pushing him right down from that lead of the event. So that would mean all change for Ian Gregg. His 2nd place had now become 1st. A good lead as well. Half a minute was the advantage at the top now, and everything was going smoothly and to plan.
So far, so good. Yes, it's we've got 4 laps left to do, and try and keep the pace up and keep the rest of the guys off my back. But yeah, we're going okay. Thank you.
With the problems fixed after day 1, it will be back on the pace for Simon Adams. There was nothing he could do about the lead just yet, but there would still be plenty of time to try and change that. 2nd place though for now.
Yeah, not bad at all. Just a bit concerned about spinning the tyres on the rims, which affected me yesterday. So I'm not giving it quite everything, but I'm matching Ian's times today. Just lost a bit much on him yesterday. There's no point in trying to catch him now.
Frustration for Richard Copsey and Richard Canterbury. They weren't able to get close to the lead, but that wasn't stopping them from trying. A spin just off the start line once again wasn't helping the times, but at least they style it out and try to make it look intentional. Honest Gov, third place for now for the pair. A lapse in concentration in the opening run of the day would see a small mistake for Willie Stubbs, but thankfully it didn't change things much. Fourth place overall, taking the lead in Class 6 now. The reason for the lead in Class 6, or the change at least, will be the drop down the leaderboard for Anthony Jackson and Lauren Widdup. They have an unfortunate encounter with a tree, ending with the car on its side. They do, however, continue for the rest of the morning to lie in 16th place. Things were still going to plan for Adam Evans. This weekend was a development time, but the times were looking good. 5th place at this stage in the event and 3rd in the class. Things were going better now as well for Cameron Jones. 2nd place in Class 6, lying in 6th place overall. He would still be looking for that elusive victory, but with almost 3 minutes to that position, it would probably ending as it looked right now. Unfortunately for Matt and Edmund Gelvin, the prop shaft that they changed as a precaution overnight turned out not to be balanced. That'd be causing them a terrible vibration in the car. They do carry on regardless though, and end the morning with 7th place overall and the Class 9 lead. Second in that class will be Ben Gill, just over a minute back on the times and with a slightly smaller gap to those behind. 8th place overall at this stage. For Luke Sagar, it would still be the Class 8 lead at the midpoint of the day. Around half a minute back from Gill ahead on the overall times, so it would still be possible to improve that overall position as well. And rounding out the top 10 now was Steve Hill and Steve Armand. The weather had improved since day one, but it still wasn't ideal, far from it. Those all-terrain tyres didn't quite have these conditions in them. They end the morning with 3rd place in Class 9. Just looking then at some of the classes outside of the top 10 as we do, it will be 2nd place in Class 8 for James Lofthouse. Happy with the times, but just feeling that things could be tidied up a little as it was getting a bit messy in places now. And for James and Jenny Canterbury, it will be 3rd place in that class as well as 13th overall. Things going well, the plan now was just to keep it that way. Easier said than done in these conditions and in this championship.
Yeah, it's been going pretty well actually. It's starting to dry out a bit, so it's getting faster. And it's a great course. I do love this venue. It's got a mixture of everything, so scare yourself a bit in the trees and that, and the fast stuff.
For Gary Reid, it will be 3rd place in Class 6 now, stepping up to take that position with the mistake made by Anthony Jackson earlier in the morning. 14th place overall too, but with Jackson only 90 seconds back and on a push through the afternoon. Richard Cooper and Adam Turner sadly drop a little time with a puncture in the early runs this morning, perhaps robbing us of a bit of a fight. They do though reach the midpoint of the day with 4th place in Class 9, 17th overall. For Tim Martin and Tristan Lamb, the Class 4 win was looking good, mainly down to the loss of all of the competition in the class. But that wasn't stopping them pushing the overall times as well, 21st on our leaderboard at this stage. No problems for Peter Bauer, meanwhile, still enjoying the course and still having fun. Isn't that the main thing? The plan was simply just to finish now and not have any more work to do on the car before the next round. First in Class 1, 25th on the leaderboard.
Yeah, I'm enjoying myself. Yeah, it's all good fun. Yeah, I could always be a bit quicker, but it's only my 2nd full event, so yeah, steady way.
And for Alan Bland, it will be 2nd place in Class 1. The gap to the class lead would be impossible to catch. Looking at it on paper anyway, but of course they all still had to finish just yet. So we reached the midpoint of day 2, a grueling event this one, and with just 4 runs remaining, it's the lead for Ian Gregg, with Simon Adams trying his best to get that lead for himself. Coverage of the Groundtrax Northern Off-Road Championship is brought to you by our championship sponsors. So on to the final runs of the event then, and we take a look at how those results were decided. For Adam Bunting, it will be third place in Class 2 at the end of the event. No change for Alan Bland in the second half of the day. He remains second place in Class 1 and takes 26th place overall too. Sadly for Robin Clarkson, the weekend hadn't exactly gone to plan. He does take the Class 5 victory, but it would be by default 25th place overall after leading the event on day 1. And it would be a good end to the event for Peter Bauer. A good enjoyable run around the course sees him taking the Class 1 victory as well as 21st overall. There's a bit of change in Class 2. We see Simon Rood end the event with second place in that class, 19th place on the leaderboard. And with everyone else falling by the wayside in Class 4, it would be the unchallenged victory in that class for Tim Martin and Tristan Lamb. It would also be a fantastic result of 16th place on the overall results too. We'd see Dean Hoskins, meanwhile, with Tim Longfield alongside, move up into the podium places in the class in the final runs. Third place in Class 8 was theirs. A puncture earlier in the day would have cost them a little time, but it was still a great result for the pair. For Richard Cooper and Adam Turner, it would be a good end to the event after their problems on day 1. They reached the finish with 4th place in Class 9, as well as a very relieved and impressive, given the problems, 13th place on the overall leaderboard. It would be job done for James Lofthouse this weekend. 12th place overall, second in Class 8, a good steady run without problems to claim a good result. Even if it wasn't quite the class victory he'd looked set to claim earlier in the day. No problems for James and Jenny Canterbury. They keep things on track for the remainder of the day to finish just outside our top 10, as well as taking the Class 8 victory by the end of the event. On to the top 10 then, and it will be 10th place overall for Gary Reid, taking 3rd in Class 6 with that result in the process. There'd be a big moment on the final run for Steve Hill and Steve Armand, thankfully getting away with it and getting to the end of the event with 3rd place in Class 9 as well as 9th place on the overall leaderboard. No more time gained despite trying for Ben Gill in his final runs of the day. 8th place overall was his, as well as 2nd in Class 9 by the finish. But for Matt and Edmund Elvin, it would be the Class 9 victory. A good, strong performance, partly in thanks to a set of new tyres. And that would help them claim the class victory and a good overall result. The weekend of development seemed to have paid off for Adam Evans. Not only had the car stood up to the treatment he was asking of it, he also comes away with 6th place overall and surely more promise for future events. Frustratingly, it was the other end of the stick for Cameron Jones. He doesn't get victory as he intended. He does, however, get into a good pace for the second day of racing, ending the event with 5th place overall, 2nd in Class 6. And in the lead of that class by the finish, it will be Willie Stubbs. 1st place in Class 6, finishing just outside the podium places with 4th overall too. No problems, the car ready for a spanner check now, ahead of the next round as planned. On to those podium places then, and it would be 3rd place for Richard Copsey and Richard Canterbury. They couldn't quite match the pace of the crews ahead, but it wasn't through lack of trying. A few spins throughout the weekend could have seen things a little closer, but luck wasn't quite on their side this time around. For Simon Adams, it will be 2nd place this weekend. The times were close, very close in fact, but sadly, a heavy landing on the final run would break something on the car, losing some valuable time. 30 seconds would be the eventual difference by the finish, but that result could quite easily have been the other way round had nobody had any problems this weekend. So that means it's victory here for Ian Gregg. taking the win, and of course, the David Simonite Memorial Trophy. The win wasn't without its problems. A small off in the second half of the day would cause a scare, but thankfully getting away with it and taking that first victory for the car. Before we get the reaction from some of our finishers, here's a look at that final leaderboard. The win for Greg this weekend doesn't change things at the top of the championship standings. Brian Farmer still leads the way there with Steve Hill in second. Coverage of the Groundtrax Northern Off-Road Championship is brought to you by the championship sponsors.
Yes, an excellent result. Very, very pleased with it, and it's also an honour to win the Dave Simonite Memorial Trophy. I'm really, really pleased with that. Well, after you said, is everything going all right? Yes, we had a little misdemeanour halfway around the course, but well, I caught it, I got it back on, and yeah, we've been all right since.
It's been a tough weekend. Second overall, lost it on the last lap. The radius rod went on the rear, felt like a double puncher. Struggled to get back. Really, went down on the jumps. Ended up with a 5:09, I think it was. But yeah, second overall, pleased. Third time I've been second in recent events, so I could just do with trying a bit harder, really. Just improve next time. But yeah, no, a great event. Yeah.
Yeah, third overall. We were going for first. I'd like to get my name back on that trophy again, but it wasn't to be this time. Them buggies were really quick, consistent times, and they were faster through the tight Nadgery woods, the turning better, I think. So we just couldn't get any power down, really. So we did as best we can with what we had to work with. Richard done a sterling job for me at Canterbury Motorsports. We couldn't have done better, really. Just one flat tyre on last lap, which put us back a few seconds, but not to make any difference on position. So chips and gravy this time.
The next round of this exciting series takes place at Forest Lodge in Scotland on the 10th of June. Make sure you've got your midge spray with you. And in the meantime, you can join us on our social media channels to keep up to date with all the events and coverage throughout the year, as well as behind the scenes content from the Northern Off-Road Championship. Thank you for watching.